Okay, the time is, I have one ear plugged, 5:14 p.m., September 25th, 2025. I am to do this right now. I could not wait. It was not allowed. I must do this right now. Jesus guides. Right now. I cannot, no matter what kind of suffering and pain I am in, report this fucking terrorist compound. Oh, God, ow. Ooh. Okay, this is chaos in here. Let's plug the ear again and just wait. Hold on. Jesus is the one that made me film right now, and it's just not the fucking time, but I'm gonna do what he says and run the camera app and be in pain and not talk about it or talk about why. Oh, Jesus, I might have to race. I can't say why I'm racing to the bathroom. Plug one ear, there's too much noise. Oh, please stop the pain. Please stop. I don't want to race. It won't stop. They don't stop. There's too much noise anyways right now to do what I'm supposed to say, but I had to run the camera app no matter what. We just sit here. Hope that we don't race. Hope that it stops. Not say why. Not talk one word about anything. Oh my God, I feel like I'm gonna puke everything up in my stomach. I'm so sick of this. Okay. It's starting to get better, but I cannot talk about what. The noise is better. Okay. Hold on, I have to recuperate. Whoa, where are we now? 3 minutes. Okay, I am to say my lifelong thoughts on Israel. My thoughts on Israel are lifelong. I am to say this. I am to put this on the film. I am to write this into print. I am to say my thoughts on Israel. When I was 18, when I was asleep, I dreamt of these green, vast fields. Green, vast fields. Soccer fields. Football fields. Farm fields. I dreamt of all these bombings. It was daytime. And in the daytime, there was all these huge rocks of buildings. The buildings had turned into rocks from being bombed, but I was 18. So that's what I was at 18 seeing. I didn't know it was bombing. I just was moving through. I was moving through like, okay, I was not walking. I was going fast, but I wasn't above high. I was like, if you're standing at a regular height, but you're going fast, at least 5 miles an hour, about this pace of a bicycle, but you're not on a bike, you're just going through the air. So that's how I saw it. It'd be a lot like if you were riding a bike. What you see at the speed of a bike moving fast and about that height. Because it wasn't like a film where you're filming something, no. But I wasn't walking, so I saw that. I saw all these fields, green fields at 18 years old. Field after field after field. It was the daytime I saw these fields. And in the daytime, once again, the clouds were kind of overcast. And there was all these buildings. Now, at 18, I'd never known war. I was aware of the war in Iraq, the Iraq war. I saw some footage of that at 16. But I didn't know what I was looking at. Just these huge, big boulders and by these buildings that were bombed. I was familiar with Bosnia, but it wasn't like that. I was familiar with the bullet holes through the buildings. No, this was way bigger. This was like gigantic rocks that were part of the building, and all these green fields. And buildings were just in crumbles, and I didn't quite understand it. It was daytime. And then suddenly, I'm dreaming, right? This is my dream. Suddenly, I'm not there anymore. I'm in a country where there's this really nice guy, and it's nighttime, and he's with his friend in a car. I've said this on the internet before, just one time. I've said this, if anyone wants to look it up. I commented on this statement I'm going to make, but I didn't really get into it. He was like my friend, but he was a little bit older. He would be like 25 and I'm 18, but he was like my friend. That's how I seen him, like a friend. And he was in the front seat of the car, and his friend was driving. They were both passenger and driver side. The car was empty. It was nighttime. And they were driving in the night with all these desert-like hills. A place I'd never seen before. And it was night, and they were really, really scared. And they were talking a language I didn't know, and they were fucking scared, and they were trying to stop something. And the passenger, the guy that, they were both like my friend now, I'll describe them. They had olive skin. They had noses like Jewish people have. Some of them look very Hebrew. Some of them look very Arabic. Some don't. So they looked very Arabic. I don't want to sound like a white supremacist, but you know how Arabs, very Arab, and Jewish people have a distinguished nose? And you can't always tell if they're Arab or if they're Jewish, but you can tell they're Arab. And white people make fun of Jewish people's noses, but Arab people have the same noses. I'm not trying to put it down. It's genetics. It's just how people look over there. Some of the Arab people have more of a distinguished nose. And the young guy in the passenger seat didn't have a larger distinguished nose, but that's how I could tell he wasn't from where I'm from. And neither was his friend. And they had hair that was cut, looking nice, about 3-4 inches. It was curly, darker chestnut blonde, not blonde, brown, brunette. Darker chestnut brunette with some like auburn. It was natural hair. It wasn't really dark. But they were Arab looking. And I couldn't quite, at 18, know what I was. I was in the car with them. I was in the back seat, but they didn't know I was there. And I wasn't really there. I was in the car with them. Okay, so the guy in the driver's side was a little bit older. He was like 28. And at 18, he was old to me. That's old. These are grown-ups. The guy in the passenger seat could have been my friend. That's how I saw him at 18. He was my friend, and I had to help him. He was young, like 21, 22. You know how you are when you're 18. He was my friend, that one. I always remember him. I had to help him. Oh, driven to help him. Compelled. And so I was in the back seat of the car, but I wasn't. They didn't know I was there. And they were driving in the dark night with these hills, like desert, big hills. And they were way out in the like wilderness of desert and hills, not like the Sahara. No, not like the Sahara. There was some trees, scant trees, and shrubs on the hills. There was foliage. It wasn't the Sahara, okay, people think of when you think of the desert. No, but it was rolling hills. It was somewhere I hadn't ever been. And they were wearing regular clothes, kind of like button-up, long-sleeve shirt. They had jackets on, and they were talking, panicked, manically talking back and forth to each other in a panic. You know how if two people are really, really near hysteria, one talks, the other talks, they're just fucking panic. Ba-ba-ba, 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 ba-ba-ba. They're both going back and forth with each other in almost near panic. I had to help them. That's why I was in the back seat. Okay. They're driving alone. And they're out there in this, like, I'm thinking of some sort of woods, desert woods. I didn't know. It was out of the city. It was dark. There's no, where they were, there were no streetlights. They were out somewhere. And in the passenger seat, the guy that I saw as a friend, he was younger, he had a computer. And the computer didn't need a cord. The computer was working without a cord. And he was on this computer. It was flat. It was a laptop. Okay? But the laptops and the internet had not been invented when I was 18. So hear me out. This is what I dreamt. He had a slim, small computer that I described as like my makeup case. You close it. It's slim, but it's a computer. It had a screen and buttons, and he's on the computer. And I described it. I tried to tell one person, and I'll get to this. I described it as the computer didn't need a cord. And he was going around on the computer. And they were really upset, and I had to help them. I knew computers. We all knew what a computer was when I was 18. His was on his lap, and it was working way out in the desert without any streetlights at night. And they were using the computer with no cords. Okay. And then from there, I went to Los Angeles. And I was in Los Angeles, and the buildings were skyscraper buildings, and I'm walking on the ground there, and it's night. I'm just walking. It's slow pace, so I think I'm walking in Los Angeles. At 18, I knew where I was. I knew it was Los Angeles. I didn't say to myself in the dream, I'm in Los Angeles. But this is how I realized I was in Los Angeles. As soon as I was walking at night in the downtown city, there was no people. I was just walking alone in Los Angeles. And I had left the backseat of their car. I was suddenly in Los Angeles. My angel said to me, now this is rare when he comes and talks to me. I was sleeping, so he said to me, Heidi, Iran is going to nuke America. That's all he said. His voice is a male voice, and it's very protective, and it's a deeper voice, but you can't tell if he's black, white. It's just a man's voice. It's older, and he needed me to know where I was. And right at that point when he said, Heidi, Iran is going to nuke America. Right at that point is when the nuke happened. And I remember I was in LA, and there was all this red glow. And then I went somewhere else. I think a beach, I can't remember. Okay, I could, but I can't right now, this second, as the clock is ticking, remember, but trust me, I can remember this. Don't say I can't. And at that point, I realized I was in LA. And at that point, I realized this nuke is so terrifying, and I never forgot it. It is so scary, right? I was so scared. I was suddenly so scared. I wasn't there in LA anymore. I was somewhere else, and I was so scared. The terror I felt. I was still asleep, and that voice had said, Heidi, Iran is going to nuke America. And I knew I was in LA, And I was so scared. And within about a minute of leaving LA, hearing my angel say that, and being somewhere else, which I can recall, but not this second, I forced myself to wake up. And I remember I shook my head and I woke myself up from this massive, deep REM sleep. I looked around and I tried to figure out where I was, like, where am I? I was at home. I was okay. I wasn't in LA. I couldn't understand it. I knew that male voice was talking directly to me to protect me. And I knew how scary that nuke is when it goes off. Trust me. When I ran Nukes America, it is fucking terrifying. And they do it at night. So that is my thoughts on Israel. And over the course of the years, as I never forgot this, no, I never forgot that dream. I couldn't possibly, if I wanted, ever forget it. It was so terrifying, that dream. Ever since then, I was like, I tried to say about a year later, I tried to tell a friend of mine, you're 16, no, I was 18, so I was 19. But when I was age 19, I tried to tell a friend of mine, and they said that I was crazy. It was a boy, it was a friend, it was just a boyfriend, not a boyfriend, but a friend, okay? I told him about the laptop. I didn't tell him about Iran. I didn't tell him about nukes. I told him about a laptop I had a dream about. And I told him about how the laptop, I described it. It was a computer, I called it that, because the laptop had not been invented, and neither had the internet. And my friend said, "You're crazy." And he put me down. It was a friend of mine who played guitar, and I wanted to be cool. At that point in life, I always played guitar, but you see, I was playing guitar, and I wanted to be cool and fit in. And I learned not to talk about these things to people because they made fun of me. And my friend made fun of me. It made me feel really humiliated. Because there was no laptops and there was no internet, and my friend called me crazy. And my friend at that point, it was just a peer, a simple peer when you're 19. I wanted to be cool and play guitar and stuff. I didn't want to be made fun of. So I never discussed it again. I didn't talk about it. And then later on, they invented the laptop. Later on, they invented the internet. And so they started to explain to me how I saw that, what that was. I saw a laptop. And I realized as life went on that those were Jewish guys. And I absolutely, no matter what, cannot let something happen to them. Then I realized when I went after Donald Trump and Al-Qaeda, that was happening right now. And that's why I kept putting Mossad, 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 which they noticed. Because I absolutely cannot let something happen to them. So that's history after that, what I've been doing, okay? But yeah, so I knew about the laptops before they were invented. I knew about the internet before they were invented. I knew about all of it. Those are my thoughts on Israel, okay? Adios.